Hey guys, we're sitting here, we are breaking down 3 lakes, fall patterns, where to start. It's a video series we've done for a long time, just trying to give you an idea where to make that first cast when you go out there on your body of water. These lakes that we're doing, I get them from you guys through the comments. We got one in Virginia, one over in Mississippi, and one in Arkansas, and they can relate to whatever lake is next to you in your part of the country. The first lake I want to do this one. It's really interesting. It's called Calling Panther, Lake Calling Panther. It's southwest of Jackson, Mississippi. Interesting. It looks like a flat lake. I got to find it here on my sea map. It's not a very deep lake. It's kind of interesting. It's got some brush piles on it, some house foundations. Just right off the bat, what sticks out to me is this hump right up here in the middle of the lake. You know, I like how everything transitions into the fall, fish moving into the backs of pockets, fish moving shallower. You know, this doesn't have a lot to it, but man, when you zoom in on this sea map, you see this 10-foot hump right out before they go in that flat. So the creek swings around, there's an old oxbow. Man, that just looks awesome to me. I don't know how else to say it. It just looks really, really good to me. You know, there's another point right here down the lake that kind of sticks out. Another one right there. You know, if those fish are still deep, you know, and Mississippi's still going to be warm, and there's still going to be fish deep. They're going to be deep all winter long down there. I would have to look at that. Like, if I had to pick a spot to start to idle over, look at my Lowrance, I would look at that location right there. You know, I'd throw a stand-up worm, shaky head, Carolina rig, those kinds of things on that. But then, didn't get bit on that. Where am I going next? The thing about Mississippi and what I know about it, let me just pull it up over here on my Google Earth. Lots of lily pads, and when I go through the history of this lake, looking at different water levels and photos, it looks like, you know, some years you guys have all kinds of lily pads on that lake, and some years you don't. So, you know, lily pads can be intimidating because they can be really shallow, really deep. They can just kind of take everything over. But what I have noticed about fishing lily pads in the fall, you know, in the south and down in this part of the country, is they will get really shallow. You know, the lily pads don't have to be green. When they start getting brown and all that stuff, a frog up in that stuff shallow is just great. I don't know how else to say it. And when I look at this, you know, you've got a couple channels up here. There's a photo right here with it little low. So I would have to think, you know, these channels, I would take my boat up that stuff as far as I can, throwing back over, you know, either side, come out here and fish these lily pads in this upper end. And I mean shallow, like trimming that motor up, bringing your trolling motor up out of the water, as shallow as that boat will float, and then throwing shallower. That's how shallow those fish get this time of year. You know, you've got some ditches, and obviously everybody's going to be able to get their boats up and down those ditches, but the guy that'll venture off and get in this side little chute right here, or you know, fish down this bank here and fish shallower than everybody else. You know, I have caught big fish doing that in the fall on a frog. So, you know, not a big lake here. We talked about that hump. We talked about that upper end. You know, this is a high percentage spot right here when you look at it. It's not showing up on my sea map, but it looks like an old pond dam, and there's a cut in it right here. Anytime the wind's blowing, that cut's going to be a player, just water going in and out. I got to find a good photo of it right there. You can just see there's a cut right there. Water's just going to change, go back and forth anytime the wind's blowing any type of direction. That's just a natural little funnel area. I'd have to make a cast in there. 365 days a year, that little cut is going to be a place that I would start. Other than that, you know, not, you know, getting too involved in all these points and pockets. The face of a dam on these smaller lakes, just the face of a dam is always a place to start because it's different. You have riprap on it, and it's only riprap in the lake. It's a straight edge, super easy to fish. Fish are going to migrate up and down it, chasing shad. It's just going to be a great place to start. So Lake Calling Panther, not a big lake, pretty flat, but what you can take from it, if it's not your lake, those shallow humps on those upper ends right before those pockets is a great place to start if you can find something like that on your local body of water and shallow. Shallow lily pads, as shallow as you can go. Throwing your frog up there, you'll catch some big ones. All right, let's move on to the next lake. Hey, I got to remind you guys real quick, pecan season, man. If you need pecans, if you need fresh nuts for your family getaways, get-togethers, all that good stuff, go on my website, check them out, man. I worked really hard. We got a great crop. I'm really proud of the pecans this year. They graded phenomenal, and we got all kinds of flavors. Jalapeno happens to be one of my favorites. Got some new t-shirts. Also, we got really cool Oklahoma gift boxes. I'll try to put a photo of them up here. You know, for you guys that maybe need to give gifts, or we can take care of all that, we'll do custom labeling. We'll mail them to whoever you want us to mail them to, you know, for businesses, corporations, to all your employees, whatever it is. So give us an opportunity to hopefully ease some of that burden on you, and you got to go do some gifts. We can put together a really good package, send them to all of them for you. So check out the website, Edwin Evers Pecans. Really proud of what we got over there. These lakes get a little harder as I go. The next one here is Lake Hamilton in Arkansas. I did fish a Bassmaster E50 there a long time ago, and I think I did pretty good. I didn't win, obviously, but I want to say I finished 12th, 13th, 14th, somewhere in there, fairly decent. I want to say Kenyon Hill won it. I don't remember, but long time ago. Kenyon hadn't fished in years, but what I remember about that lake, it's pretty clear water, and I want to say it wasn't the fall. It was post-spawn. Those fish had pushed their fry to the backs of those docks, and I was catching them on a poplar is how I was catching them, or a popping bait of some sort. So doesn't really relate to this time of the year. But I also remember there was some grass up that lake. Up the river, there was actually hydrilla and milfoil. I don't know if that's still there. If that is, you're gonna have to start there. And that was up here in this river stretch, going up the river. I don't remember, I don't know if it's there now or not. But looking at this map, looking at my C map, couple things really stick out to me. You've got this main river channel. Wow, just thinking about that and the rain that we're fixing to get. We got rain forecasted, like a bunch of it here in Oklahoma, that I would have to think is gonna get over to Arkansas. So let's talk about a place to start. If we get a lot of water and they're going to be dumping Ouachita, which I can't imagine they're going to let a lot of water out because of, the water levels. We hadn't had a lot of rain here lately, but let's just pretend that they are. So I got to pull a map up over here and just see if we have any really good pinch points. Pretty interesting right here when I zoom in on it. This is actually a photo from after a big rain event. You can see the water going out the dam right here. And look at how this is all chocolate, and then this bay stays clean. This bay is a lot cleaner than the main body of water. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You don't have to go very far to find different watercolors, and especially if they're pulling a lot of water. My experience, through a body of water that is really clean most of the time, and then all of a sudden it gets dirty. These main lake corners out here, oh my goodness, like that one, this one, in this bend, those are going to be dynamite. They're just, what happens is, fish that are deep all year, now the water's dirty, they've got to come up shallow, to feed and to see and all that stuff, and the current drawing through. So if that event happens, if you get to Lake Hamilton and it looks like this on the lower end of the lake, I would fish as many main lake corners as you can. Focus on those ones that are in the bends, of ones that point upstream. Going to be big keys, okay? So if that doesn't happen, what are we going to do? I like the looks of the back of this bay right here. And it's all the way down the lake. I've got some natural water flowing in, so this is going to be dirtier back here after this rain. It's going to be a mixture of color, where out here is going to be really clean. The back of this thing is going to be littered with logs that are going to be really shallow. This is a little bit lower water photo I've got right here. You can see this boat dock's dry, and it can be kind of challenging. So like that boat dock is a prime example of what I look for in the fall. See how that thing is sitting on the mud? It's a shallow, the lake's low right here. So when the lake's full, that thing does not have very much water on it, and it's the furthest dock in the back. That is such a good pattern in November. A shallow dock in the very, very back of a pocket, isolated just like that one right there. that would be a great place to start. That would be a good place to go fish, that one right over there. But I love this big one right in the middle. You know, you've got a creek coming out. These logs in here, you can see that log right there. That stuff could be good. I would work my way out. I've got something really unique sticking off that point right there. It looks like a rock pile. There is some neat stuff in the back of this pocket that I can fish really quick. It's not going to be that gin clear water out there, you know, that you're going to have at the main body of water, you know, if you don't get that big rainfall that they're talking about. But it could be really good fishing. Fish should be migrating back into this if they're not in that flat. I just love how this creek sets up. Then I got this narrow section. Like those fish, they're going to come back here and feed, and then when everything gets too cold, they're going to pull to this first deep water in this narrow section, in my opinion, and they're going to be right here. So as November transitions into December, just follow them back out in this first deep water where that next down is going to be a really, really key spot. So I really like that on this lake. We talked about the main lake corners if you got a lot of current coming through. This big bay right here, let's pretend everything's normal. You haven't gotten a bunch of rain. It's got a bunch of flat points in it that I would have to go throw my top water. You know, your favorite Chopo, your buzzing frog, your buzz bait, you know, your walking bait. But like that flat point right there, when the water's going to be over that, it's just barely under the water, you know, 4 or 5 feet there, probably just a couple feet there in that picture. I would have to fish that. Like that's going to be a really high percentage little spot. You got a lot of those flat points in here, and that's kind of stuff I look for this time of year, you know, just flat, long tapering points. Those fish will move up and down. To me, that would be a great place to start. Looks like we got a bridge here. Always good place to start year-round, 365 days a year. The last thing I want to talk about. So you've got a couple big creeks that come in. This is the river coming out of Ouachita. That's always going to be clean, clear. But if you ran up that river, you've got this secondary river that comes in. There is going to be a stretch here where that water's going to mix. You know, you're going to have from clean water to dirty water. I like these creeks that are way up a river, the sides, and then I like it when I've got docks that are on really flat banks. So if I go back in time here and just try to find a dock out on a flat point where the water is low, let's see if we can find one. That one right there, that one right there, those are close. It's not perfect, but they look pretty good. So you can see here, this is some super shallow water, you know, on the flat in the back of a pocket. That's the kind of stuff I look for in the fall on lakes like this. You will catch fish there. Slow rolling spinnerbait down it, vibrating jig, your finesse jig, a big worm, lots of different things, but look for those last few docks in the backs of those flat pockets on flat banks. You can catch fish all through November on that stuff. So there's three, four areas there on Hamilton to start. Let's go to this very last lake, and it is a monster. Smith Mountain Lake in Virginia. And we actually have a tournament there next year. We have heavy hitters. I've had a few good events on Smith Mountain in the past. What I remember about that lake, it's just massive. Just tons of shoreline, tons of boat docks, lots of fish in it, you know, lots of big fish in it. And you talk about, you know, you've asked me, you got a comment, you know, hey, break this thing down for me. It's a hard lake to break down because it's so massive, so many miles of shoreline. But I'm going to try to do it. You know, you've got to just take a section of a lake when you do that. So instead of running all over this thing, you know, if we were just to take this one north-facing creek right here and just let's pick 3 or 4 areas in it to start. One thing that I remember about that lake, you know, all these marker buoys, they can be just great fish catching marker buoys. And the ones in particular are the ones that stick out on these flatter points. You know, those things go all the way to the bottom. They're just a great fish holding magnet, you know, just out, you just think about an oil derrick out in the ocean, these fish holding buoys that they have, they're just poles in the water that marks the channel. It's the same thing as an oil derrick out in the ocean. They can be really productive. So I would fish 4, 5, 6 of those, you know, just to get a feel if they're on that any. You know, of all these creeks that we have up here, man, there's just not a lot of variance. This bay right here, probably is the best looking bay, just a flat bay with lots of flat points. I do have a road going in, a road coming back. Let's look at it over here on Google Earth, because it just looks a lot different on Google Earth than it does this map, because you have so many boat docks. And that flat boat dock pattern will definitely work there on this body of water this time of year. Okay, so looking at this map right here of this bay that we were just talking about, one thing that really sticks out to me that is a pattern that works on a lot of lakes is when you have these big marina docks that stick out over a creek or a pocket. I never pass up going down the outsides of those. You know, if you think about, you know, all that we've learned with forward-facing sonar, you know, and prior to ever having that, always catch fish the end of summer through fall, winter, out off the ends of these boat docks. You know, those shad are migrating towards the backs of these pockets, and it's just a great intercept. You know, a bass can sit on the ends of these docks and you know, ambush those shad that are migrating towards the backs of those pockets. So the ends of these docks is a great place to start on this lower end in this pocket that I'm talking about. I really like how that looks. There's not really a good low water photo on this lake, you know, to sit there and say, hey, this is like different or variant. So you're gonna have to do it with your eyes and your mapping on your card, you know. Take a pocket like this one right here, a flat bank in the back. You can see that it's flat. You know, a great place to start for me a lot of times is I will idle all the way back of a flat pocket and turn around and start fishing those docks coming out. I've got just 4, 5, 6 of them there. I could fish them really quick, figure out what depth they're at, and so many times they're going to be on that very last dock in the back, or maybe the next one, especially on those flatter banks. So that's another spot that I would look at this time of year, you know, on a lake like this with just gazillions of docks. I'm trying to keep it simple here because it's such a big lake. The third thing that I would look at, you know, and this is under normal conditions, because as I'm sitting here thinking about this, you know, when we had the hurricane come through, I really don't know how much watershed was affected, you know, here at Smith, you know, and you guys hadn't had any rain really since that hurricane. You know, I guess you might have some coming here this week that I'm filming this, but, you know, it's been pretty dry there. I don't know what happened to your lake with the hurricane, if it just all muddied up. But under normal conditions, well, and even if it did get muddy, this pattern probably be that much better. In this pocket, you know, we're just keeping it on the lower end here. You can see I've got a flat point here. I've got a long extended point here. I've got one right here. I've got one right here. These flatter points that extend out in the main lake, there's one, I would have to run all those, and I would run them with a couple different baits. I would run it with my favorite topwater, whether it's a Chopo or that Jaywalker, or if it's really calm, you know, a little bitty buzz bait. If I got a lot of wind blowing, then I'm gonna start throwing that swim bait or a jointed swim bait, a spinner bait, you know, even maybe a lipless crankbait if I've got really good watercolor. But those flat points this time of year, those are just I don't know why, they just attract fish and big fish, you know, anywhere I've been across the country. And I would have to think it would work on this lake. When you got a boat dock on it, it's just that much more of an added bonus. You know, so many times they don't put the boat dock right on the tip of the point. They're always on the side, which is okay, but I'd prefer if it was right there on the tip. But you've got some great points all the way through there. And don't overlook like those little secondaries in between two main ones. Like this one right here, to me, you know, that could get passed because somebody's going to fish that main one and then they're going to jump to this one over here. There's no reason to. I like those little smaller secondary deals that don't get as much pressure. So there's some areas that I would start on Smith Up Mountain Lake. I hope this helps you guys on your body of water. These are patterns that I think work, you know, for the most part throughout the country on different bodies of water. So with that said, let's get to the winner that we picked randomly from the last video. And we got Clay Martin 1116. Clay, you're the winner, buddy. This is what you said. Great vid, Edwin. St. Lawrence is on my list. Just a little tough for an Okie to get up there. It is a long ways up there, buddy. But send me an email through my website, Clay. I will never reach out to you guys. That's all spam. You only contact me. So send me an email, bud, and I've got a certificate that I will email back to you for a blue top battery. Thank you for leaving the comment. Thank you for being a loyal viewer to the channel, guys. I hope this information helped. But until next time, good fishing, guys. Hope you guys have a great fall.